The White House said yesterday that President Biden will sign the continuing resolution to keep the government funded through January 19th. So now we can finally put this all behind us and also in front of us.
Yeah, government is not supposed to be a part of our everyday lives. It's supposed to function properly, but that's not happening. And now, James Marshall Hendricks. Hey, well, happy Friday to you. At least you're not Michael Cohen. Are you? Jake Tapper is afraid he's going to be thrown into the Gulag Archipelago when Trump becomes president because he's that important. Extraordinary times we are in. The Economist, of all people, lots of other media have jumped on it, with the headline, Donald Trump poses the biggest danger to the world in 2024. Axios, Economist calls Trump biggest danger for 2024. Mediaite, The Economist World Ahead Guide declares Donald Trump the biggest global threat in 2024. We shall be very afraid because, he did that interview with Univision, right? And the reporter, for whom English is not a first language, nudged him and pushed him and asked him, well, the Justice Department is being used against you. They weaponized the Justice Department against you. They weaponized the FBI against you. Would you respond in kind and use the Justice Department against the people that did this to you? And eventually he kind of shrugged, and after the fifth try, he said, what happens, happens. What goes wrong, goes wrong. And the media have decided to make a lot out of that. That's, oh my God, it's Hitler all over again. And they are comparing to Hitler all over the place because they compare everybody to Hitler. The Socialist Workers' Party, while they, butcher 63 million babies and 40% of the black population, and you're looking for Hitler comparisons. There are plenty to go around now that they've launched their anti-Semite worldwide rally, and the Democrat Party jumped in with great enthusiasm. And we've got these young Democrats, I was sharing the audio with you yesterday, who read the 2-page Osama bin Laden letter from 2002, and now they're in with Osama bin Laden, and we got to wipe out Israel. So, be careful who you go around calling Hitler when you're calling for the destruction of Israel from the river to the sea, which is the chant of Hamas, which is a genocidally anti-Semitic organization. So if the Hitler comparisons are going to come around, they're also going to go around, and I think I know who fits the description better, but never mind that. So yeah, Donald Trump posed the biggest danger to the world, the whole world in 2024. Why is that? Well, he would secure our border. One of the fits of hysteria the media had the other day was from that interview with Univision about using the Justice Department, which is happening right now. They should, if they want to be hysterical, they can get hysterical today because it's been happening for quite some time, the Justice Department being used against the political enemies of the Democratic Party, thank you very much, which isn't. And just amazing stuff, amazing. The story from 4 days ago was President Trump planning sweeping raids, deportation camps. Deportation camps, because they love the idea of camps. Mass deportations, if reelected in 2025. That's the MSNBC. Well, he would be reelected in 2024, NBC News. He would be inaugurated in 2025. But he wouldn't be reelected in 2025. Just try to keep up with her. It's a pretty simple thing. Every 4 years, even-numbered years. It's the headlines became hysterical. Trump's deportation plans for immigrants. The New York Times, very, very upset. New York Magazine, Trump plan for immigration blitz. They have the word blitz in quotation marks. Is too chilling to ignore. Now, what's chilling is the open borders now, and the Brazilian who was convicted of murdering 11 people found in the Northeast by ICE, who the Democrats want to defund and disband. And then the other Brazilian immigrant that murdered that woman in Pennsylvania and was on the run for 2 weeks or something as a fugitive, but never mind that. Trump's second-term agenda: deportations, trade wars, civil servant firings. You mean reducing the size of government, which continues to grow and grow and expand every year, and with every new president? And we're $33 trillion in debt, and maybe we should get our house in order. Is that what you're talking about? Deportation, since we had how many millions and millions of people just flow across our open border? It's not an open border. It's under control. That's what Mayorkas says, because he lies all the time, including under oath, but pay no attention to that. So they're freaking out. They're freaking out. Oh, no. The Washington Post: Trump's plan for giant detention camps points to a brutal 2024 reality. Greg Sargent is one of the girls from the DNC steno pool at the Washington Post. By the way, you work for Jeff Bezos, speaking of detention camps. And, you know, you guys love all your pals at Apple and so on. They're having their products made in detention camps in communist China. But that's okay with you. That's just fine. And I love the headlines, the hysteria, completely crazy. And Rachel Maddow, when President Trump was running the first time, was like, oh no, I'm going to ask Donald Trump if people like me, because she's a lesbian and she enjoys the sexual company of women. So do I. Is going to end up in a camp because they got very fertile imaginations and an extraordinary outsized sense of importance.
Rachel, Alicia Yu wants to know, if you booked Donald Trump on your show, what would your first question be?
Are you going to send me or anybody that I know to a camp?
That was 6 years ago. Now, were there camps? He was president for 4 years. Did anything like that happen? Everybody loves lesbians. Not necessarily Rachel Maddow, because, you know, being a lesbian is the least important thing about her. But never mind that. Now it's camps everywhere, too chilling to ignore, and all this stuff. Now, something funny happened, and because President Trump was asked about the Justice Department, the FBI being used against him, as it obviously has been, right?
You say they've weaponized the Justice Department, they weaponized the FBI. Would you do the same if you're reelected?
If they do this, they've already done it, but if they want to follow through on this, it could certainly happen in reverse. What they've done is they've released the genie out of the box. They have done something that allows the next party. I mean, if I happen to be president and I see somebody who's doing well and beating me very badly, I say, go down and indict them.
Now, he's speaking obviously rhetorically, and he gets himself into trouble doing this frequently. It could certainly happen in reverse. Well, is that true? And let's leave Donald Trump out of it. Now that it's been established as a precedent by the Democrats, could it not happen in reverse? I wouldn't say it was in reverse. It might just continue to happen as it's happening now. But once you establish this as a norm, which has happened, just like mob street political violence established as a norm until it reached the Capitol, and then it was Pearl Harbor and September 11th rolled into one. Pretty amazing stuff. And what we learned, speaking of the corrupt Justice Department, what we learned yesterday is worthy of note, I would have to say. Special counsel investigating Joe Biden's classified documents reportedly unlikely to charge anybody. Well, wait a minute. Isn't President Trump's trial involving classified documents ongoing? Yes, it is. Didn't President Trump have the authority and the power to declassify documents? Yes, he did. Weren't his documents at Mar-a-Lago being protected by the Secret Service even after he left the White House? Yes, they were. Didn't Joe Biden have classified documents in his garage behind his Corvette? Yes, he did. In an office building on Capitol Hill above Charlie Palmer's Steakhouse? Yes, he did. Some temporarily in Chinatown. He had documents, classified documents in his house in Delaware. not being protected, going all the way back to when he was senator and when he was vice president, classified documents all over the place. And CNN was excited to report because they're, sleeping with their sources in the Democratic Party. CNN announces that special counsel Robert Hur will not be bringing charges against anyone in connection to his investigation of how then Vice President Biden and his team over how they handled classified documents. CNN's Brianna Keister and Paula Reed say Hur's team, they decided, hey, look, we're all Democrats here. Why the hubbub? We'll just let this slide. And in the meantime, we're going to try to lynch Donald Trump and put him in prison for 100 years for doing exactly the same thing, only less so, and under safer circumstances, being protected by the Secret Service. That is Joe Biden after he left the vice presidency, no Secret Service, after he left the Senate, but never mind any of that. So Hur's team has been fastidious amid this false equivalence some critics of Biden tried to make between Biden and Trump and handling of classified documents. What's the false equivalence there? We don't need to explain that to you. We'll just tell you that it's a false equivalence and leave it at that. It is good to be a Democrat, let me tell you. Now let's go to CNN, because CNN yesterday, this is pretty amazing stuff. Jake Tapper, who was a Democrat Capitol Hill staffer, he worked on the staff of a Democrat member of the House of Representatives whose son later married Chelsea Clinton. I assume that he went to the Chelsea Clinton wedding, right? That would have to be. But you see, it's about the double standard that Joe Biden gets a free pass. Keep in mind that Hunter Biden was in line to get his free pass in Delaware for the gun charges, that is, lying on a federal form about his being a drug abuser, and he said he wasn't, and then he got his gun, which means he possessed the gun illegally. A mother in Virginia was sentenced to 21 months in prison 2 days ago for the exact same thing, lying on a federal form, saying she didn't use drugs. What she used was marijuana, which is legal most places now. What Hunter Biden was using was crack cocaine and powdered cocaine, bragging about smoking crack with Marion Barry, going back to his college days. And he lied on the form, and he got the gun. And then his girlfriend at the time, who was his brother Beau's widow, took the gun from his vehicle, I think, and threw it in a garbage can behind their high-end grocery store. The news media described it as their high-end grocery store. A woman in Virginia whose 6-year-old son shot a teacher at school with her gun that she got illegally after lying on the form. She was sentenced to practically 2 years in prison for lying on the form and for possessing an illegal gun, right? But Hunter Biden got the free pass, didn't he? He got the free pass. Just amazing. And now Joe Biden's getting the free pass on the classified documents, but President Trump is still on trial for the classified documents, so we might call that a double standard. However, Jake Tapper, he would dispute that.
I can already anticipate what we're going to hear. This is a double standard. That Donald Trump was charged, and there's a federal case and indictments about his mishandling of classified documents, and Joe Biden is not going to be charged. Obviously, the cases are different.
Obviously, the cases are different. You're right. One is a Democrat and protected by the Justice Department, the FBI, and this special prosecutor, Hur. And the other is Donald Trump, who is the biggest danger to the planet Earth in 2024. I thought he's overshadowed global warming. He has eclipsed global warming as the biggest threat to the world. Climate change, step aside, here comes Donald Trump, who had low inflation, low gas prices, full grocery store shelves, no war in Europe, no war in the Middle East. But the Democrats really became crazy about him. Hey, do you have smelly odors in your home or your office that you'd really like to get rid of but can't? Well, now you can get rid of any stinky odor with the Eden Pure Thunderstorm Air Purifier. The Thunderstorm gets rid of strong odors from cooking and cigarette smoke and litter boxes, and even leftists are no match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. The thunderstorm starts working in a matter of seconds to clear any room of any odor, and there are no expensive filters to buy and replace over and over again on a schedule. Annoying. You can hold a thunderstorm in your hand like this. Hundreds of thousands of units already sold. 5-star reviews all over the internet. You can find them yourself. And this week, I've got a great deal for you on your own thunderstorms, because right now you can save $200 American when you buy 3 Eden Pure thunderstorms for whole home protection, one for the teenager, one for your uncle. You know, he's always needed one. That's 3 units for under $200. Just go to EdenPureDeals.com and enter the discount code Chris, CHRIS. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is Chris, and because you hang with me, you get free shipping. Yeah, it's good to be a Democrat. And, you got Democrat Capitol Hill staffers posing as anchors, famous for his date with Monica Lewinsky. Hey, these are obviously different. Yeah, you're right. Joe Biden didn't have declassification authority, and his documents were not protected by the Secret Service the whole time. What were the other differences, Jake? Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. We got more crazy CNN to get to, and more violent Democrat radical stuff in the streets of America yesterday, which is all fine because they're Democrats, Right now, let's grab a telephone call. I think we should go to Rick, calling from Elmwood Park, New Jersey. Ricardo, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Chris, how dare you say Donald Trump is a bigger threat than global warming when all the polar bears are falling out of the sky?
I love polar bears. I like them almost as much as I like Chinese pandas. The Chinese pandas make an excellent stir fry. That's why I always get the what is it? The sweet and sour Ling Ling from Panda Express. I love the sweet and sour. And global warming is the biggest threat to the world. I know because I'm told that about 15 times a week by Democrats who drive around in motorcades of SUVs and then fly on airliners with just themselves aboard. That's great stuff. But look, you heard the story, right, from The Economist, Rick, that he's the biggest threat to the world in 2024. Are you panicked?
Well, he must be a bigger threat than global warming because the planet isn't warming.
Well, that makes perfect sense. Stop making sense, Rick. Stop making sense. Yeah, it's good stuff. How dare you, sir, say he's a bigger threat. Global warming keeps me up at night. Who's it, Rashida Tlaib? Oh, Ilhan Omar. The Jihad Squad. The Jihad Squad lives. I want to get to the Jihad Squad in just a moment. But I want to share one with you. Attention, U.S. military personnel, in particular Army personnel. The Department of the Army put out a memo that went unnoticed, I think. Hope C. Rampey, Brigadier General, United States Army Military Personnel Management. And this is kind of an extraordinary letter. It has to do with their mandate in the Army to get the COVID vaccine. And a lot of members of our military chose to leave the military rather than get the vaccine. In particular, a lot of top flight, world-class athlete special operations forces decided to leave the military because of the Soviet-style draconian mandate that the left imposed because they are dictatorial in their orientation. But the letter from the Department of the Army: Dear former service member, we write to notify you of new Army guidance regarding the correction of military records for former members of the U.S. Army following rescission of the COVID-19 vaccination requirement. As a result of the rescission of all current COVID-19 vaccination requirements, former soldiers who were involuntarily separated, kicked out of the Army, for refusal to receive the COVID-19 vaccination may request a correction of their military records from either or both the Army Discharge Review Board, which they naturally call the ADRB, or the Army Board of Correction of Military Records, which they naturally call the ABCMR. I'm not making that up. That's true. Individuals may request a correction to military personnel records, including records regarding the characterization of discharge. Now, because they got general discharges or dishonorable discharges, and you would want an honorable discharge for being an honorable man or woman, by submitting the request to the ADRB or the ABCMR online, or by mailing a DD Form 293. This is why nobody wants anything to do with the government, am I right? Application to the review of discharge or dismissal from the Armed Forces of the United States. Now, individuals who desire to apply to return to service should contact their local Army, U.S. Army Reserve, USAR, or Army National Guard, ARNG, recruiter for more information. That is pretty amazing. I like all the abbreviations. That's great stuff. But this is Brigadier General Hope C. Rampey. Hope C. Rampey is the Brigadier General, United States Army Director of Military Personnel Management. You should really put an abbreviation after that. Hope, put an abbreviation over that, don't you? So now the Army is coming sniveling back, and it's about damn time, and saying, listen, sorry we kicked you out of the Army for that phony baloney mandate with the COVID vaccines, but now if, since we dishonorably discharged you or give you a general discharge, now you can apply to have that straightened out because we're the creeps and you're the normal people. And we kind of apologize, but not too much. But that's a big deal for lots and lots of people who got scrod because of this insane, draconian Soviet-style mandate for the COVID-19 vaccines that were, not tested and trying to. How's your myocarditis going, Michael? How's that myocarditis going? So the U.S. Army is apparently sending letters to former troops saying that in light of the removal of the COVID-19 vaccine requirement, they can now apply to get their reasons for discharge changed. That means any derogatory remark or dishonorable discharges, general discharges, can potentially be removed or changed. The reason for discharge. Also inviting these troops that were involuntarily separated from the Army to come back into the Army. This might have something to do with their recruitment problem, too. It might also have something to do with their recruitment problem. So that can cut both ways semantically. Huge reversal from the Biden administration's tyrannical military vaccination mandatory policy, finally put to an end by the Republican House of Representatives. So that's a big deal. That is a big deal. And it should be noted because it's a big deal. And they scrod a bunch of our troops. They didn't scrod. One of the people they didn't is, remember Alexander Vindman, the Democrat Party activist who was a lieutenant colonel in the Army, and he's an immigrant from Ukraine, another Soviet tie to the Democrat Party. Well, you may remember that Alexander Vindman, who should have been brought up on charges of, if not treason, certainly he undermined the commander-in-chief in a really enormous way, Alexander. And that was about the phone call to Ukraine, right? Which was asking about the millions of dollars going from Ukraine to the Biden family coffers, and it was all true. And President Trump was onto something, but instead he was impeached for trying to find out about it. And the news media joined in the lynch mob, naturally. Well, now Alexander Vindman's brother, Yevgeny Vindman, another Soviet tied to the Democrat Party, Yevgeny Vindman, the twin brother of Alexander Vindman, officer who reported Trump, the Washington Post headline excitedly says, to run for Spanberger's seat. We're all supposed to know what Spanberger's seat means across the country. That is a Democrat House member, Abigail Spanberger, who's terrible and awful. And she's decided she's going to run for governor so that she can ruin Virginia. Yevgeny Vindman, a retired Army colonel who, along with his twin brother, raised alarms about President Donald Trump's actions toward Ukraine. No, it was actually about a phone call asking about Biden family corruption and millions of dollars going from Ukraine to the Biden family, which happened. But never mind that. Plans to announce that he'll run for Congress in Virginia's 7th District, where Democrat Abigail Spanberger, awful, terrible person, declined to seek another term and to run for governor instead. Vindman, 48, his twin brother is the same age, interestingly, is the first Democrat to announce campaign succeed Spanberger, and a career military officer who went from fighting in Iraq to serving in the White House. He's a lawyer. He's in the JAG Corps. He wasn't out there bayoneting Al-Qaeda. He was a JAG officer. And for short, you know what they call him? Never mind. A career military who went from fighting in Iraq as a lawyer to serving in the White House as a national security national security advisor. He was a national security advisor. That's not true. Vindman acknowledged that he's a newcomer to Virginia politics who's better known for his time in Washington. Really? He's an Army colonel who's better known for his time in Washington, and he's a lawyer in Iraq? Never mind that. They say in the Washington Post said fighting in Iraq. He was the fighting lawyer. Amazing. Amazing stuff. But his experience immigrating to the United States from Soviet Ukraine. He's a sleeper. As a child and later prosecuting cases as a judge advocate general at Fort Hood, Texas. They've changed the name, now Fort Cavazos, because Hood was a racist Democrat, but that's okay. They're erasing their history like the Taliban. Illustrates the kind of rule of law approach that he wants to bring to representing the district on the Hill. Wow, he's already getting fluffed so big time. Isn't that amazing? Just amazing. You're a Democrat Party. It's a criminal enterprise. So he was involved because I thought it was just Alexander Vindman, but now they're saying Yevgeny, with the Russian Soviet name, was also involved with his brother, Alexander, in spreading that false thing about Trump doing something wrong when he made a call to Ukraine to ask about the millions of dollars going to the Biden family, and now tens of billions of dollars going to Ukraine. The return on investment has been extraordinary. Extraordinary. And the Washington Post just glosses over all. They're not going to include any of that. But Democrats are already attacking Yevgeny because he wasn't involved in the midterm elections. Well, he wasn't running for anything then. But the Democrats would kill their own children for one more seat in Congress. Man, just amazing. Extraordinary. His father brought the twins over, and the Washington Post faithfully reproduces a letter to Dad. Dad, my sitting here today is proof that you made the right decision 40 years ago to leave the Soviet Union and come to the United States. Alexander Vindman said in his testimony before Congress, do not worry, I'll be fine for telling the truth. Well, you didn't tell the truth. And, you bucked the commander-in-chief. You should have been brought up on charges for it. And now we know that his brother, according to the Washington Post today at least, anyway, his brother was involved in it. Yevgeny was involved in it too, which means there was collusion and it was a conspiracy perpetrated by two former Soviet subjects who were brought to the United States for freedom and ended up behaving as Soviets behave here in the United States. And now their brother is running for Congress. It's good to be a Democrat, isn't it? Speaking of running for Congress, the Democrats have a lot of jihadis in Congress. They had the Jihad Squad, not the Mod Squad, the Jihad Squad. And, we have that secret Facebook group we found out about where Rashida Tlaib is involved in this secret, genocidal, anti-Semitic Facebook group that denies the Holocaust, says that the attack on the concert where hundreds were murdered on October 7th never happened. And when you're Rashida Tlaib, that's all fine. From the river to the sea now means let's go swimming. Isn't that what the Democrats say? Let's go swimming. No, it doesn't mean wipe Israel off the map. Of course it does. It's in the Hamas charter. It's the Hamas chant. It's the Democrat Party's chant, too. Ilhan Omar unveils resolution to block weapons sales to Israel. You may recall that the other day, earlier this week, Tuesday, of the big pro-Israel march on the Mall, a couple of phony Democrats like Schumer, the Lizard King, showed up to scream at the top of his lungs like a mental case. Did he threaten any Supreme Court justices there? Because he loves to threaten Supreme Court justices, and then mobs show him at their homes, and crazy man with a gun shows up at the home of Brett Kavanaugh. And it's never on him. Nothing is, when you're a Democrat, all that is just washed away. It's a really good thing to be a Democrat. But the Lizard King went back into the Senate and voted against, every single Democrat voted against the Republican House-passed bill with $14.3 billion for Israel, and every single Democrat voted against it the other day because from the river to the sea. Now Ilhan Omar unveils resolution to block weapons sales to Israel because Democrats. The left-wing Hill has the story. A half dozen House progressives, genocidal anti-Semites, jihadis, introduced a bill Thursday to block a $320 million arms sale to Israel amid its war with Hamas in Gaza because they are pro-Hamas. Hamas is a genocidal death cult, and the Democrats have a lot of people that have joined them. I played the audio yesterday of the college age and the 20-something Democrats who are now followers and admirers of Osama bin Laden and agree with him that Israel must be wiped off the face of the earth, and the United States is guilty for supporting the existence of Israel. The measure, led by Representative Ilhan Omar, Democrat, Minnesota, would revoke the export license of a specific type of guided bomb kit approved for sale to Israel months before the October 7th start of the war in Gaza. They call it the October 7th start of the war in Gaza. It was the massacre of Israelis by Islamists, jihadis, and Ilhan Omar is a jihadi. The bill is co-sponsored by Democrat Representatives Cori Bush, Democrat Missouri, Summer Lee, Democrat Pennsylvania, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat New York, Delia Ramirez, Democrat Illinois, Rashida Tlaib, jihadi from Michigan, all of whom have criticized U.S. support for the Israeli military in the conflict. They are not on our side, and they're not on Israel's side. Isn't that amazing? Your Democrat Party. The party is pro-genocide. They are pro-Hamas. They've got college kids chanting from the river to the sea, projecting on walls at the University of Pennsylvania, George Washington University. Praise for the martyrs. Those are the murderers, the jihadis, who gladly died while murdering the Israelis. The Democratic Party isn't. And these people are jihadis. Not that they're no better than jihadis. They are part of the jihad. And they are here to wipe Israel off the map from the river to the sea. The media praises them. Even the Jewish media. What is up with these people? So President Trump has eclipsed climate change as the greatest threat to humanity, according to the American news media. You know, I was talking about a story, and I did it on my Newsmax show as well about a week ago, that psychiatrists and psychotherapists are recommending psilocybin, magic mushrooms, and MDMA, which is called ecstasy, hallucinogenic drugs, for people that are suffering from climate anxiety. High anxiety It's you I abhor. All right, and with that, it's a crazy thing. Maybe hallucinating, tripping will help you deal with your anxiety over climate change, which the Democrat Party inflicted upon you. With that, let's go to Sid in Los Angeles. Sid, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi there, Chris.
Hey, Sid.
In my other life, I'm a psychiatrist, and I'd say over the years I've seen thousands of patients. Not one has complained about climate change as part of their anxiety. On the other hand, if you read any of the psychiatry journals, all the articles are about climate change and the effect on patients. So I believe what's going on is psychiatrists are really bringing their political beliefs to the office and basically talking about their own anxieties with their patients. And, when I was trained in medical school, you're supposed to leave religion and politics outside the office. But I think times have changed.
Yeah, that was then. This is now. Wow. Now, Sid, we know each other.
Yes, we do. I never told you I was a psychiatrist.
No, you didn't.
Anyway.
Sid came on our sea cruise, and I knew you were a smart guy. I didn't know you were a psychiatrist. I did not know that. That's interesting. And thousands of patients, and nobody's said, I can't sleep at night because of climate change. So maybe you don't have enough Democrat patients.
I have a whole mix, a whole range,
yeah.
I tell you.
I would think mostly
the reality
Democrats.
But if you look at the medical journals, it's like they had a whole article last month about talking about nuclear nuclear wars as something that you should be dealing with your patients about.
Yeah.
So,
I got to tell you, Sid, I guess I need to worry more. I'm not worrying enough, Sid.
Obviously not. I can tell you.
But if I do, I'll get some mushrooms. They now sell mushrooms in stores in Washington, D.C. Magic psilocybin. You can just walk into stores and buy mushrooms now. That might explain a lot.